Hi there, my name is Dan. I'm from HumidorGuitars.com. A lot of the newcomers to building cigar box guitars have problems with fretting. They seem to be intimidated by it. I know I was when I first started doing it. So what I thought I would do is, once I figured out how to do it, it wasn't too bad. So I thought I would put together a video and show some of the newcomers the way I do it. Now a lot of the other builders out there are going to say, no, you don't need that tool. You can just use this tool. You don't need to go to all that trouble. This is just the way I do it. Take it for what it's worth. If you want to follow somebody else's method of doing it, knock your socks off. It's all good as long as the finished product works out okay. That's all that counts. So what I'm going to do is I have a bass guitar neck, and this is going to be a 30-inch scale, 2-string bass. I'm going to fret it. I've got a slot cut for I'm using a bolt for a nut, so I'm going to put the nut in there. For marking the fret positions, I use a program called wFret. You could buy a scale if you wanted to, doesn't matter, but I use this program called wFret. And you print out a paper template that has the fret positions on it. And all you do is you take this template and you scotch tape it to your neck in the right position, line it all up, tape it to the neck, go down and mark with a pencil where the fret locations are, and you'll know where to cut your slots, and I'll go through and I'll show you how to do that. Some of the other tools I use, and again, you don't have to use what I use. I have a standard Home Depot hammer with a rubber on one side and a plastic on the other, so you don't bang up your frets when you're tapping them in. You don't really have to pound them in. I just tap mine in. If you're careful cutting the slots, the fret will go in fine. You won't have to pound it in. It's not like you have to hammer it down. I use a regular square or a T-square or whatever you want, just so I know that the fret slots are perfectly perpendicular to the side, so I don't have them cockeyed, because I've seen some that go in a little crooked. And I spent the extra money and I bought the Stuart McDonald fret saw. And you notice it has a depth gauge on here that you can adjust so you loosen these nuts. You don't need to use one of these. You could use a simple $9 modeling saw from the hobby shop. You could use a coping saw, which I've used before, but the thing I like about this is you just cut until you feel it stop cutting, and then you know that the depth of that slot is exactly where you want it, and that all of the slots are going to be exactly the same. So do you need one of these? No, you don't. You could do it with a bunch of other different saws, but again, this is the way I do it, and I like it. Comes in handy, and inside of an hour I can have an entire neck measured, slotted, cut, ready to put the frets in and have them put in, chamfered on the ends, sanded all smooth, and ready to go on to the next step. And I'll show you how I do that. I'm not going to do every single fret, but I'll show you a couple of them how I do that. So we'll switch the camera over to the workbench and I'll show you how we do it. Okay, this is my improvised workbench. It's nothing but a sheet of plywood that's screwed to a 2x4 that's clamped into my Black & Decker Workmate. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a paper template and I'm going to tape it to the neck so I know the position of my slots. So I just take it up, down, and I actually printed out a template that has more than the necessary number of frets on it. But that's okay, because I'm just not going to use them. So let's put the glasses on so I actually see what I'm doing. You can see this. I'm just going to mark the position of each fret. Sorry for the jet noise in the background. These stupid wind chimes. As you can see, this goes really quickly. I'm just making a tick mark next to each line. Sorry if my hand's getting in the way. So this template had 22 frets on it. I just only drew 21 of them because that's how long the neck ended up being. So I peel this off of here, and I'm done marking the frets with the template. Now I take my T-square. I'm going to make sure that I draw the line square to the neck. So I Line it up. Draw the line. Just go down the neck and just keep doing it until you're done. I'll probably cut the video off in the editing process so you don't have to sit here and watch me draw 21 lines, but you get the idea. Okay, we are all fret marked. Now all I do is use my fret saw. I use my fingernails to line up so that I get the saw in exactly the right position, and I line it up on the mark, and they're right against my fingernails, and I just go fret slot cut. Repeat that over and over until you're done. Some people suggest that you use a miter box or something to make sure you keep your saw square and even, but I'm just real careful when I do it by hand, and I haven't had any problems. But you could certainly use a miter box and a saw that does not have a depth gauge on it if you wanted to, or there's a bunch of other ways to do it. Like I was saying, you want to make sure you keep the saw perpendicular and you don't get off on an angle this way or an angle that way, because you'll end up with a slot that's too wide, and then the tang of the fret won't sit square down in Okay, that took about, what, 5 minutes maybe? I didn't show you all the video, but that's about all it took. And you can see all the fret slots are cut. They're all a uniform depth on the side. Next step I do is putting the fret wire in. So I'll show you how I do that. Okay, what I use to fret is obviously fret wire. I get all my supplies whenever possible from cbgiddy.com. He's a great supporter of Cigar Bucks Nation and has excellent service, gets you your parts quickly. He almost ships them to you before you even know you need them. They come in a pack of a whole bunch of these. I think they're 8-inch pieces. One package can do up to 2 guitars, depends on how many frets you do. I use a pair of little side nippers and my aforementioned plastic hammer. So all I do, take a piece of fret wire, put a block of wood on the back, just because this neck is angled, so I'm setting it up on the block. All I do is I fit the fret wire in the slot, so just a teeny little bit of it hangs over on this side over here, so it's kind of off the edge there a little bit. Take my hammer, tap it in, take my side cutters, go up as flush as you can, cut it off. Do the next one. Same thing, just a little bit of hang over there so you can sand it off later. Cut them. I want to warn you ahead of time that these ends that you cut off of the fret wire are really sharp, and they're like razor blades, and you will cut your fingers before you even realize that you've cut them. Ask me how I know. All of a sudden you got blood on your neck and you don't know where it came from. Okay, all done. The frets are in. All the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to dress up the edges. so they don't have all these sharp things on them. We're going to bevel them so they feel smooth to the touch. What I do is I use my belt sander, and I know some people are going to cringe, but I have a pretty deft touch when I do this, so I've had real good luck with it. You could certainly sit here with a hand file and file them all down on an angle, or use some other method with sandpaper and a wood block or whatever, but I do it on the belt sander, and I'll show you how I do that. This is my cheapo $35 belt sander from Harbor Freight, and it has performed marvelously for me. You know, Harbor Freight is not the best quality stuff in the world, but for what I do, it's been an issue. So give me a drink of water. So what I do is I take the neck and I hold it on an angle, the angle that I want the edge of the fret to be, and I just very lightly touch it to the sander and go all the way down the side, all the way to the end, and then flip it over and go back to the other side. And bevel it, make sure it's smooth on this end as well as this way, and we'll show you how that works. I'm doing that very lightly, just barely pressing in. I just enough to get the sanding on it. Okay, that's it for the initial sanding. You can still feel a little bit of it on the edge, then just go back and sand it off a little bit. That's the initial rough sanding. So done with the belt sander. Now, time for the secret weapon. Okay, the next step I do is I use just a regular vibrating sander with some 100 or 150 or 200 or whatever floats your boat. And I use this to take it down to the next step of smoothness. So I just run it down the edge and away you go. Okay, that's smoothed it down real nice. The only thing I notice is that right on these little edges on the inside part of the fret, they're just feeling pulled just a teeny little bit. So my secret weapon is a plain old foam sanding block like you get at your home improvement store, like $1.99 or whatever. And if you run that along the edge, because it gives, It goes in and it takes these little edges off on the inside here that you normally have to sit and clean them off with a file. And I was absolutely amazed at how well that works. I saw somebody else do it, and if you're the guy who figured this trick out, thanks, but I can't remember your name, but I'd give you credit if I knew who you were. So I run this up and down the edge. And now it's nice and smooth. Okay, that's it. It's fretted. Now the only thing I didn't mention that most people will make sure that they remind you of is before you start fretting, I probably should have said this first, but make sure that your the face of your neck is as flat as possible and it's trued up, and that your frets are going to lay nice and flat. You got to have a good foundation to start with. So she's all fretted. Good to go. See how easy that is? Thanks for watching. Check out my website, www.humidorguitars.com. Have a good one. Keep on building and keep on playing.